In the middle of
World War II,
this young girl
is betrayed by her own father,
and she is sold
to this ruthless goldsmith who traps her in a house filled with cruelty,
and she
gradually starts to become both a victim and a survivor.
But when
dark truths about her past start to emerge, there is a twist, and it shatters everything she thought she knew about her family, her slave master,
and herself. The movie begins in 1942 in the
Luzon region of the northernmost island in the Philippines, where we see a young girl named Selina being dragged by her father, Barong, to meet with a man whom we later find out to be a goldsmith called Tiago. He is one of the wealthiest men in the area, and he often lends money to others. However, it often comes with high interest, or else he gets his payment in kind. At that time, Japan was aggressively colonizing neighboring countries during World War II, and this had caused the economy to be very hard, especially on those in the rural setting. So many residents were forced to borrow money from wealthy merchants, or sometimes they even pawn their jewelry just to survive. In the meantime, as Barong drags Selina along to Tiago's place, one of his friends, Bino, who is also a merchant, stops him to ask where he is headed. That is when Barong tells him that he is using his daughter as collateral to take a loan from Tiago. Mailing, who is Bino's wife, was very sad when he learned that Selina was going to be sold, especially to a man everyone knew was very ruthless. But even at this, Barong ignored her and dragged his daughter along the way. Not long after, they arrived at Tiago's house only to be greeted by another woman walking out with her daughter, Cora, who appears depressed and mentally unstable. Seeing this, Selina begs her father the more not to sell her to Tiago, fearing what the man will do to her. But Barong will not relent as he proceeds into the compound where we see a young blind boy named Damo, who is Tiago's servant working outside. When they eventually enter the house, it immediately becomes evident that Tiago is a ruthless businessman, as we see him aggressively downpricing a jewelry that one of the women wanted to pawn despite her pleas to add to the price. The woman is eventually forced to accept his offer, and after the woman leaves, Barong tells him that he has brought Selina for him. That is when we see that Tiago is actually disabled and can only walk with the aid of his cane. So he goes to expect the girl and then informs her that from then henceforth she is his property to do with as he pleases. And after paying Barong off, the man gladly goes home and spends the night with his friends drinking at the bar. As they drank, the men gossiped about how Tiago's wealth had blinded him and that his money would eventually lead to his downfall. But in all this, Mailing still wonders how Barong could sell his daughter without any guilt. But Bino scolded her and ordered her never to interfere in other people's problems. Meanwhile, Tiago orders Selina, who is now alone with him, to bathe in front of him before he forces himself on her, as all her pleas for him to stop falls on deaf ears. In the end, while Tiago sleeps, Selina stays awake crying until she eventually decides to try to escape from Tiago's house. So, she quickly picked herself up and ran back home, only for Barong to kick her out and tell her that Tiago was now her new father and owner. Knowing that she had no place else to stay, Selina returned to Tiago's house, and although she felt extremely sad, she managed to lie on the floor and rest that night. The next day, Selina wakes up to find Tiago brutally beating Dom with his cane. The look of disgust in her face is so obvious that it eventually made Tiago stop beating the boy. And this eventually softens Tiago's a little, and from there on, Selina gradually begins to make peace with her situation, as she begins to get used to living with Tiago and doing activities like cooking and gardening for their daily needs. However, Tiago continues to use her as he pleases, even when they eat their meals. As Selina worked outside with Dom, the young boy eventually tells her the story of how he came to work at Tiago's place. Just like Selina, he was used to pay off his parents' debts when Dom was only 7 years old. As the two talk, Cora's mother arrives to trade her jewelry. But when Tiago offers an insanely low price, the woman begs for him to be merciful to her for the sake of Cora, who is still trying to recover from her trauma at his house. In the end, Tiago eventually adds some money to the payment before the woman leaves. The next day, Tiago reminds Selina that she is there to repay the massive debt that her family owes him, so she should be willing to do whatever he wishes of her. That is when Selina asks him if that is really the case, or that he is gradually developing feelings for her. But before Tiago could answer, Selina kisses him and starts to seduce him. Suddenly, an airplane flies above them, throwing some flyers on the ground. They eventually discover that the piece of paper contained news from the Japanese granting amnesty to any American or Filipino that is willing to surrender. Moments later, it begins to rain. It was the first time in a long while that it rained, and in celebration, Selina continues to play with Tiago outside, as they once again have an intimate moment. That night, Selina asks Tiago if he loves her. Strangely, the man appears to have been flirted by her tone, and without saying much, he stands to collect the key to his treasure box, and eventually gives Selina one of his precious necklaces as proof that he is serious about her. From then on, Selina's life begins to change as Tiago becomes gentle and caring with her, and even takes her out to the market as Selina now appears well cared for. One of those days, while on the way from shopping, Bino calls Tiago to drop by his bar for a drink. There, Bino and the others discuss how the Japanese troops are approaching their village, and how it would be safer for everyone to evacuate to a safer place before the Japanese arrive. But while the men talked, Mei-ling calls Selina and warns her that despite how well Tiago is treating her now, she should still be careful and vigilant around him because he can change at any time. Eventually, Tiago gets heavily drunk that night, and Selina manages to drag him to bed. Knowing that the man will be asleep till the next day, Selina takes advantage of the situation and opens Tiago's safe to take part of his money and jewelry. And as she steps out, she remembers how his father had also used her mother to pay off part of their debt despite the woman's pleas. And in the end, when she was unable to cope with the shame, she had eventually ended her life. That night, Selina is unable to sleep, and she eventually goes to talk with Damon. That is when the young boy reveals how much he had suffered under Tiago, and how the man is responsible for his blindness after he tried to escape from him. Moved by his story and how much he has suffered, Selina allows Damon to touch her as she explains the woman's body to him, eventually making him feel like a man for the first time in his life. The next day, Selina goes to wash her clothes by the river, and there, she sees Cora, who is still very much traumatized by her experience at Tiago's house. Selina eventually consoles her until her mother comes to take her home. And when Selina arrives home, she sees that Tiago is very angry as he has discovered that part of his money and jewelry are gone. So, his suspicion falls on Damon as he furiously beats him. Just to avoid being suspected too, Selina grabs a machete for Tiago to take care of Damon once for all. But after seeing this, Tiago's emotions eventually subsides as he tells Selina not to act recklessly, and that they will just have to accept the loss of the money and jewelry. That night, while Damon was still mourning his fate, a Japanese soldier, who was wounded, approached him and was about to attack when Selina appeared just in time to kill the man. Selina then apologized for putting Damon in trouble earlier, and as a peace offering, she eventually allowed the boy to have his first experience with her. The next morning, after burning the body of the soldier, Tiago asks Selina to follow him to Bino's place for drinks, but Selina refuses, as she tells him that she needs to rest. Tiago eventually agrees to this, and he goes to town alone. At Bino's place, the men once again discuss the need for them to evacuate as soon as possible, and they even commend Selina for making Tiago appear much better in the last few weeks. But while they were talking, Selina was packing up to leave, and she even invited Barong to run away with her. That night, when the men notice that Tiago will not be able to walk home alone, Barong agrees to accompany him. But on their way home, in a very deserted location, Barong suddenly pushed Tiago, causing him to fall. In his drunken state, Tiago could barely hear Barong telling him that Selina is actually Tiago's biological child, as he explains that his wife had conceived Selina when Tiago slept with her, and more importantly, Barong knows that he is impotent and can't father a child. After venting his emotions and beating Tiago up, Barong leaves him in a mess. Now feeling very much guilty for all his actions, Tiago immediately rushed home. However, when he arrives, he is shocked to see Damon being intimate with Selina. This makes him boil with anger as he enters and tries to attack Damon. But just as he is about to get close, Selina reacts first and stabs him, as she eventually brings an end to Tiago's terror. The two eventually set fire to the house in order to bury any traces of the wicked man as Selina and Damon walk away. And at the end of the movie, Selina shares Tiago's money with Damon as she apologizes to him that they can't continue together and that they have their own lives to live. Damon doesn't want to be separated from Selina, however. Her mind is made up as she ignores him and walks away. And as he tries to move along, we see that the entire village has also decided to relocate to someplace safer.
Domingue does not want to be
and that is the recap of the movie, Selina's Gold. If you love this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and also leave a comment for us. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.